this very day, continues to make a momentous and overwhelming contribution to the development of our beloved Trinidad and Tobago. But more significant is the fact that this is an organization which would have emerged out of the depths of unrelenting poverty. An organization created to provide hope and to act as a medium of change, the answer to the pleadings of a people facing harsh, terrible, and oppressive economic and living conditions. Interestingly enough, and based on the historical antecedents of the past, that is slavery and apprenticeship, colonialism, every single one of us sitting here today, every single one of us, if we go far back enough, we will find that every one of us would have had some forefather or ancestor who would have toiled in the plantation fields of this nation in coffee or sugar or coconut. Every single one of us. And it is for this reason, for this singular reason, the All Trinidad General Workers' Trade Union must be viewed by the national community and its membership, you, as a sacred institution, a historical symbol containing a personal part of every single one of you. Every one of you sitting here today is here simply because when sugar became king and Europe demanded more, our forefathers were brought to this land to work in the plantation fields of the New World. And so you must never forget, ladies and gentlemen, my comrades, you must never forget that your union, this union, was molded and shaped by the struggles of the past. A union that was built on the sweat and the toil and the tears, the sacrifices of our forefathers as they attempted to create a life out of the cane fields to which they first came. You must never forget, you, the membership of this union, must never forget the battles fought in the sugar industry. More so in 1934, when 15,000 sugar workers down the tools throughout the length and breadth of this nation and protested and demonstrated and were not afraid to challenge the colonial authorities at that time for better and improved working conditions. You must never forget 1937, ladies and gentlemen, when oil and sugar united as a formidable force, Indians and Africans uniting together to challenge the might of the colonial authorities. And you must never forget more recently, in 1975, when oil and sugar united again in the march for bread, peace and justice. When our African brothers and sisters and our Indian brothers and sisters marched hand in hand, demanding better living and working conditions. And together, both groups faced the tear gas and the bullets and the batons of the police force, which was unleashed on them by the then PNM regime. You must never forget those things, ladies and gentlemen. The membership of this union must never forget that in every single struggle, every battle fought on behalf of the working class of this nation, the All Trinidad General Workers' Trade Union was always a part of it. We must never forget the good that we have achieved, the contributions made, the struggles, the sacrifices, the battles fought, and the victories won. Never forget that, as strange as it may seem to us today, there was a time in this nation of ours when men and women were willing to stand up and fight and die for a cause, and for nothing more. When men genuinely believed in the concept of equality and brotherhood, and were willing to sacrifice themselves so that the people of this nation could have a better life. And so you must never forget the struggles fought, the battles won, because if you do, then you become complacent. And when you become complacent, the rights and the privileges that you now enjoy, that you would have fought for, that your forefathers would have fought for, these rights and privileges which they earned and which you earned by the sweat and the tears and the toil of the years gone by, privileges that was not won overnight, but took many daunting years to achieve, could easily be taken away from you by those in authority in the disguise of legality and in the disguise of reform and restructuring and policies and nice promises. So you must be very careful, comrades. You must be very careful. You see, brothers and sisters, the struggle is not over. The struggle will always exist, because the working class of this nation will always have to fight and beg and protest and demonstrate for the rights that are due to them. You have to fight for better wages. You have to fight against 5%. You have to fight for better working conditions. You have to fight against technocrats implementing economic policies without taking into consideration the negative social and economic consequences of these policies. Every single day you fight against that. And you have to fight for labor reform, even though there are so-called labor representatives in this government of ours. Every single tangible benefit that you, the working class, have ever gained in this nation, you have had to fight for it. And worse than that fact, is the fact that you have to fight against those who are supposed to be representing your interests. That, ladies and gentlemen, is sadness. These same people who walked hand in hand with you, side by side with you, having now attained the political office, suddenly realize that the main purpose of being a member of parliament or being a minister in government is to buy a black Prado with tinted glass and have a driver to carry food that they take away after official contract. That is what they believe. In my view, it has become so ridiculous, so obscene and so vulgar that government officials and members of parliament expect to be praised and thanked for paving a road or building a box drain or providing water for a community. They expect you to go down on your knees and thank them for doing their job and for doing what they are paid to do in the first place. And that is not right. There is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt, comrades, that labor, our labor movement has been betrayed by those who profess to have labor at heart. And in order for labor to deal with this betrayal, there must be unity on the labor front. Trade unions must unite together. We must become a band of brothers, united together in a common cause. We cannot and will never succeed if we continue to allow petty differences to take precedent over the good of the working class in this nation. We must understand that, brothers. Labor will always fail if we continue to sacrifice the interests of the working class on the altar of pettiness and political expediency. Labor must never have to depend on political gifts or handouts by any politician or political party. We in labor must remember that we are the representatives of the struggles of our forefathers as they try to forge a society from the dynamics of slavery and indentureship. And the time has come when we in the labor movement must say that enough is enough. The time has come when we must stand up and say whatever it takes to bring us together. We will do so in order to protect that which is ours. And that we the the labor movement will decide what is to be done by the legacy that has been left to us by our ancestors, by the struggles that they would have fought. Always remember, and the working class of this nation must always remember, that you did not beg anybody for the rights and privileges you enjoy. Nobody did you a favor. What you enjoy is not a gift. That is what you have earned and worked for. That is what is due to you. We must therefore demand as a labor movement and as the working class, we must demand what is ours and what is our due. And when we speak, when we, the labor movement, speak, we must speak with the legitimacy of thousands of workers who we represent. That is how we represent. And today I make a plea, I make an appeal to the leaders of the trade union movement, and I appeal to NATU, I appeal to Fighton, I appeal to the joint trade union movement, I appeal to the independent trade unions. Let us meet together at the table of brotherhood. Let us forge a new direction. Let us begin afresh to chart a new pathway of labor unity never before seen in this nation. Let us create a labor lobby that is as powerful as any political party, so that never again in this nation will any minister of government be so bold as to tell the labor movement that they have to wind inside. Let us join together to prevent that. We must understand as the labor movement that if we do not unite, brothers and sisters, we will perish. We will perish. I will even go so far as to say, and perhaps I am treading on dangerous waters, but I will go so far as to say that perhaps the time has come for the trade union movement to embark on a struggle to change the psyche of our people, to change the consciousness of our people, to change the culture of mediocrity to a culture based on fairness, equality, and justice. Our struggles must never be selective, because what is good for one must be good for all. Perhaps the time has come for the trade union movement to begin the process of educating our people and teaching them that ministers and members of parliament are nothing more than persons holding a job. That they are public servants. That their duty and their responsibility is to serve you, the people, not you, the people, serving them. How terrible an injustice it is in this society of ours, when you can have some ministers and members of parliament who act as though they are without an original thought, without an independent idea, without logic or rationale. Some of them who can't even string two sentences together, who can't even write a proper essay. Some who do not even have the decency to respond to their constituents when called upon. But yet they expect you, the people, to honor them. We must put a stop to that. Truly, the time has come for the trade union movement to begin the process of breaking the shackles of mental bondage that make us believe that elections and parliament are only about party politics. Maybe the time has come, brothers and sisters. Maybe the time has come for us to re-establish the age of the independent candidate as an option to the mockery that passes as candidate selection for constituencies. And I will go even further. Win, lose, or draw, brothers. Why can't the trade union movement begin the symbolic act of putting up candidates in any constituency if they so choose? Why do we have to depend on the established political parties to do that? Why can the Old Trinidad General Workers Trade Union put up a candidate in Cuba South or Cuba North? Why can the OWTU put up a candidate in Point Fortin or Point of Pierre? Why can the PSA put up a candidate in Bonell, or Maloney Hospital. Why can't you? As trade union leaders, we cannot continue to sit on the sidelines and allow party politicians to take this nation, our nation, into a dark abyss of no return. This is our nation, and we must decide if we are going to be part of the solution or we are going to be part of the problem. I say, this very day I say, that the trade union movement must charge itself with the responsibility of creating a new political dispensation to the people of our beloved nation. I say this to you, my brothers. We as leaders of civil society must never allow ourselves to continue to sustain and prop up a system based on exploitation and favoritism and racism and discrimination and nepotism. We must be willing as trade union leaders to challenge both sides of the divide and demand change. Because if we don't, history will never forgive us. The time is now. Today, comrades, the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union face many battles. As the General Secretary would have indicated to you, because of the historical dynamics of the past, the All Trinidad still has a residual interest in the affairs of the ex-colony employees. The appeal against the Garrison judgment was removed by this government. And yet, having done so, 2.5 years has gone, and this government has failed to fulfill its promise to the ex-colony workers. In fact, you have a Minister of Housing and a Minister of Food Production who have basically and blatantly refused to meet with the All Trinidad, the legitimate bargaining body for these workers, to discuss the plight of the ex-colony workers. In fact, this chap, this Minister of Food Production, I can't remember his name fully, but I think his name is Nirvan, had the utter audacity and impunity, treated the workers of Colony Limited 1975, the ex-workers, with utter disdain and contempt. He has refused to meet with us. And by doing so, he has refused to meet with the workers of the ex-colony workers of 1975. This is the type of minister we have today. This is the same fellow, this Devan, who when 17 workers of Colony Limited 1975 a few months ago were viciously and callously terminated. They were fired on the eve of our 50th independence. This is the same minister who came out in the media and he had the gall to say no one was fired. And when we, the All Trinidad, provided the letters of termination to the media and to the national community, this young fellow buried his head in the sand, and to this date, there's total silence from him. But I want to tell him today, and I will call his name, I want to tell David, the Minister of Food Production, that the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union have not forgotten you. And we will be coming to speak with you. If not at a personal level, then we will speak with you nationally. And we will deal with you because you cannot treat the people of this nation with such contempt. You cannot. We have not forgotten, but the time is not right. When that time is right, we will do what we have to do. And we have not forgotten, ladies and gentlemen, my comrades, we have not forgotten its very actions. This government seems intent on deliberately frustrating the ex-colony workers. It seems intent on ensuring that these workers are not able to access the lands that were provided for them in the visa package. It is as though the government is deliberately orchestrating so that these workers will face frustration after frustration so that these lands could go back into the hands of the government. In fact, in my view, there are elements in this government this people's partnership that is intent on undermining and destroying the small farmers in Trinidad and Tobago. That is my view. And in so doing, they will destroy a way of life for thousands of our people, simply so that their technocrats and their advisors could implement policy and say that they are earning a fair day's wages. And I want to point out something to this government. Section 59 of the DLC judgment said that it understands that such an exercise of the distribution of these lands will take some time to be finalized, but it also understands that the government has the power and the capacity and the resources to do so if it so wishes. And so the question is why? And then on the facts of the case, according to the DLC judgment, the ex-colony workers and their legitimate expectations are being frustrated. And the government's lack of urgency, the then government and this government, the government's lack of urgency is tantamount to an abuse of power and an abuse of process. But we will deal with that when the time comes. Because the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union now has a battery of lawyers who are willing to analyze any issue and deal with it, not only from a moral front, but deal with it from a legal front as well. This government must therefore explain why it is following in the footsteps of the former regime and showing contempt for this judgment. Why? Why is this government so insistent on going to Guyana to engage in agriculture, while placing all of our lands, agricultural lands at that, in the hands of the Ministry of Housing? Why? Is it that they expect to do agriculture in Guyana and fill Trinidad and Tobago with a concrete jungle? Is it that they think that if there's ever a food shortage in this nation, that we could eat concrete and glass and steel and paint? Is that their thinking? And so I'm calling upon this government to do what is right, to do what is just, to do what is fair, and to ease the dilemma facing these people. You see, I'm telling this people's partnership, I'm telling this government that you must understand that the people are waiting. The people who place their faith and their confidence and their trust in you are waiting. The people from the plantation fields of this nation, they are waiting. And most importantly, the people upon whose backs you would have stood, and whose backs today provide the foundation upon which you stand, they too are waiting. And you must remember that any people, no matter how docile, no matter how passive, no matter how humble, any people that push too far, if they feel betrayed by those they have trusted to seek their interests, if they feel hopeless, and if they feel shunned, they may very well react in ways not expected of them. They may very well withhold their support and their loyalty and their allegiance in order that never again will they be ever taken for granted by anyone, including this government. And so, comrades, there are many battles with little time. When I became President General of this union, I vowed that never again will the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union be used and abused by anyone, especially politicians, who pretend to be friends to this union in order to serve their own interests. I will never allow them to chain this union to the dynamics of the past. We must understand that the social, political, and economic dynamics of our society has changed. And our union has changed. And in order to adapt to different circumstances, a union, the All Trinidad, which was born out of the blood of sugar, represent workers in every sector of this nation today, and of that we are extremely proud. And I thank those who have come here today to give us support. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you see, comrades, brothers and sisters, you see, if you look at our society and you examine it, you will understand that we are a people who share a collective experience. We, the working class of this nation, we are the totality of a shared collective experience going back over 500 years in the Caribbean. We must therefore reclaim our history and reclaim our labor heroes of the past, because if we don't, then we are in trouble. And we can't depend on the authorities to do so for us. We must do it for ourselves. And when I look around and I read the newspapers, and when I look at the television, I am certain that today our forefathers are weeping for Trinidad and Tobago. They weep for our ignorance and our arrogance. They weep for our forgetfulness and our lost innocence. They lament that we have forgotten the lessons of the past. Moral values, neighborhood communities, the oneness that made us who we are. Today, all of that seems to have faded into oblivion. The heroes of the past, ladies and gentlemen, the simple people and the not so simple people, those who are willing to give their lives for change, are weeping. Yes, they are weeping. Those who toil and sacrifice so that we could enjoy the fruits of their labor, they weep because we have failed them. Because we fail to understand the battles that they would have fought. And we fail to appreciate the sacrifice that they have made. We, ladies and gentlemen, we are betraying our forefathers when we allow ourselves to be used and abused and fooled by those who are simply gaining political office or seeking political office. They weep, our ancestors weep. They weep for the young men being killed in the northern hills of this nation. And they lament for the sons and daughters kidnapped and brutalized. They watch, they watch as the lives, our lives, are constantly ruined and washed away by the flood waters that have now taken over this whole country. And I'm sure that if they can, they shudder in disbelief that we are building housing on our agricultural land. And we are showing scant regard for the environment. Comrades, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, our forefathers are weeping for a land that was fertilized by the blood of slaves, a land that was fertilized by the blood of the indentured. They are weeping for a land that was shaped and forged out of the labor struggles of the past. They weep because it seems as though to them that the blood that they would have shed has been shed in vain. And so we must become conscious, and we must understand what those in authority are doing to us. And it is for this reason I again appeal to the labor movement, and I'm again saying to you, let us unite. We do not have to fight or to go to war to express our discontent. We do not have to shed blood to stand up for our rights. We simply have to unite as a people, as leaders of civil society, and send a message to those in authority. And we must ask ourselves, every one of us, because every single one of us here today, we are supposed to be the representative of thousands of people who are supposed to be behind us. We must ask ourselves, we must look in a mirror and ask ourselves, what is this weakness that stands before me? Where indeed are our spirits gone? Where are our people? Brothers and sisters, there are times in this nation, there are times when lines of demarcation must be removed and political, racial, ethnic and class differences must give way to the good of the country. We must unite in battle, and we must ask ourselves, where We must look around, look at each other and ask ourselves, where are the descendants of the Cambodia riots? Where are the descendants of the Jahaji massacre? Where are the descendants of the 1934 and 1937 strikes and demonstrations in this nation? Where are the descendants of those who were willing to face death in 1970 and those who faced tear gas and bullets in 1975? Where indeed? Where are the descendants of these people? Look around and look in the mirror and we shall see. And if there are any differences between us, I say to the labor movement, if there are any differences between us, then we must recognize those differences and we must understand that if we open a quarrel between the past and the present, you will find that we have lost the future. It is therefore imperative that the trade union movement unite together and come together to reclaim the legacy that was left to it and to redefine itself as a pillar of working class struggle and as a check and balance on politicians gone mad. I am making that call today. I am making that call as President General of the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union that the trade union movement must come together around the table and unite. We must. We must. Because thousands of people whom we represent are yearning and begging and pleading with us to do so. We cannot allow differences at the leadership level to get in the way of that. Comrades, I can speak for hours upon hours on the difficulties that we as a people and we as a nation face. Yet I must start with the All Trinidad. I cannot call upon you to change if we ourselves in the All Trinidad are unwilling to change. And so to my members, to the members of this union, I say, let us travel along a pathway forged from the callous destruction of the sugar industry. Let us travel along that pathway, because that pathway will teach us things. Let us create a new dynamic. Let us forge a new way in an ever-changing society. Let us in All Trinidad create a new dispensation in order to successfully adapt to an environment without sugar. Adapt to an environment in where we are representing to a very large extent the private sector of this nation. Let us adapt, let us learn from the past so that we can overcome the obstacles of today and that which will come in the future. After the loss of 10,000 members, the closure of the sugar industry, my vision, and I say this to my membership, because I've said it to the General Council and I've said it to the executive, my vision is to rebuild and place this union on a sound footing, and even with limited resources, to be proactive and initiate the process of once again making the All Trinidad a bastion of working class struggle. My gain, my goal is to make the All Trinidad receive its rightful place in the national sector of this country of ours. Let it become a union with the national prominence and respect it deserves. Dear comrades, it must always be our intention to pursue as vigorously as possible the mandate of seeking the interests of our membership, improving the working and living conditions of every worker in this country. In fact, we in the All Trinidad, our mantra must be not only to take care of our membership, but we must struggle and fight to ensure that every single man, woman, and child in this nation of ours is afforded equality and fair play and justice before the law and before the institutions that govern our society. That is our mantra as of today. Under my stewardship, this union must once again become a watchdog on society. We must once again involve ourselves in national issues. And anything that affects the society in an adverse way we must get involved. It is essential, and I'm coming back to this point because I've said it before. It is essential that we as a union maintain our independence and that we are not tied down by the historical ties of the past. I have said it before, and I want to say it again openly. I said it to my General Council, and I said it to my executive, and I'm going to say it openly. Rienzi Complex is owned by the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union. It is not owned by any political party. The United National Congress is a tenant of the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union, and that is the extent of the relationship at this point in time. I do not care to be tied down by the past. I care about the future of this nation. And if that means that I have to shatter by any means possible the illusion of political affiliation, then I will do so regardless of the consequences. But I must, in order for this union to survive, for this union to chart its own destiny, I must. And if you look around today, look around you, you will see that there's not one politician sitting here. Not one of them was invited. And when I say politician, I mean every single one, past and present. And there's a reason for that. Because the time has come when as a union, we must no longer allow them to take us for granted. And you know, in fact, people have this perception, real or imaginary, that your Trinidad is affiliated in some way politically, but I tell you this today, and I tell the national community, that if I go to reveal things that have been done to this union, and reveal the way that this union has been treated by the same people we are supposed to be affiliated to, you will be shocked beyond belief. But that's for another time, and that will come very soon, I assure you. I wish to openly praise the Central Executive and General Council members, Sunshine and Charles and Casey, Blind Welfare, Ren, all those of you who have come out here today in Moira Valley, I thank you. I thank you for your contribution. I thank you for taking the initiative to serve your union and by extension the national community. At your own level, you have committed to making a difference and protecting the rights of your colleagues. You, I say to you today, you are leaders in your own lives. And with little reward, but with the knowledge and contentment that you are helping to make a difference. And I thank you for that. I thank you most sincerely for that. To the general membership, I say thank you for your continuous support and dedication to this union, which belongs to all of us, more so you, for without you there can be no union, and you must always remember that. We must always seek to conduct ourselves in such a manner as to ensure that those who would have gone before us, those who would have toiled and sacrificed, those who would have laid their lives, did not do so in vain. We must be vigilant, because every single thing that the working class earned by sweat and tears could be easily taken away from you. It could easily be eroded by those in authority. Remember that. And so we must be vigilant, always. I therefore appeal to you, my comrades, my brothers and sisters, my membership. I appeal to you. Do not allow the idealism and the fire and the passion of your youth to be undermined by lies and half-truths and by those who are attempting to undermine and destroy not only the labor movement, but this union as well. Because I assure you, there are many politicians today who wish that this union could close its doors. And they have their reasons for that, but I will come back to the membership with that many times right. In spite of the challenges facing us, let us unite together. Let us unite and maintain the pride and dignity of the All Trinidad Drummer Orchestra Union. Let us unite. Ladies and gentlemen, today our union can stand tall, it can stand firm and strong and proud as a national institution which would have played a vital role in shaping the very fabric and the very essence of this nation. Your union, comrades, at 75 years, have stood the test of time and stood strong, even when it faced its darkest hour, with the closure of the sugar industry and the loss of 10,000 members. We stood strong and we stood tall, and we continued along the pathway of seeking the interests of our membership, and for that we must be proud. We must be proud, ladies and gentlemen, for that this union has overcome an obstacle like that. And though the soothsayers and doomsayers predicted our demise, they said that we will fall, we are still here today. We are still sturdy, and we are still strong and tough. Remember, and I want you to remember, that the solutions to the difficulties that we face lie not in the hands of others. The government is not going to solve our problems for us. The business sector will not solve our problems for us. We are the ones who will have to solve our difficulties for ourselves. We are the ones who will have to get up and demand what we want, and demand that we be heard, and demand that our interests are served, because we cannot depend on those in authority to do so. I therefore urge you to join me in rebuilding and restoring the All Trinidad to its rightful place as a major contributor to this nation, because we cannot do it. The executive alone cannot do it, and the General Council alone cannot do it. Every single member must play their part in helping us to take this union along the path that it was created for, to serve your interests. And let us always be guided by the principle, ladies and gentlemen, that in unity, only in unity can there be strength. And let us understand that every single time you, the members of this union, every single time you stand up for an ideal or act in such a way as to help others or strike a blow against injustice, you create a movement of ideas. A movement of ideas that is like a tsunami that will sweep away the walls of oppression and exploitation. And that tsunami of unity is what we must seek to achieve. Not only the All Trinidad, but the trade union movement as well. My comrades, at times the task has been hard. At times the task was daunting. I remember one day, as I close, I must give you this story. I remember one day I told Mr. General, I said, John, it is not easy. At times I stand alone. I cannot please everyone. Everything I do is under scrutiny. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I said, John, it is a daunting task. And he said to me, he said, PG, and I want to thank you, Mr. Jagger, for his words. He said, PG, even when you are alone, you are never alone. Because you walk with destiny. You walk with the leaders who have gone before you. And you walk with the thousands upon thousands of sugar workers who would have sweat and toiled and sacrificed and killed for you. The thousands of people who would have labored and fought and died for the struggle. He said, you are never alone, because the spirits of those peace people walk with you. And John, I thank you again for those words. I want to assure you that the All Trinidad will be firm and unwavering. We shall not be daunted. We shall not fail or falter. We shall not abandon you. I assure you we shall continue to stand by you. We will struggle with you. We will fight with you. And we will never, never, never turn our backs on you. I give you that assurance today. All I ask of you is to help me to help us. and by extension help the nation. That is all I ask. And as the words of Winston Churchill would have said, let us do our duty and conduct ourselves in such a manner that if the old Trinidad General Workers' Trade Union should last for 1,000 years, men will say, and men will still say, that this day, this new journey that we have begun was its finest hour. Let us act in that way. Let us begin this journey together. Let us unite together. Let us work together to safeguard the future of our nation and of our children for generations to come. Long live the old Trinidad General Workers' Trade Union. Long live the struggle for peace, for justice, and for equality. I thank you, and may God bless.